Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut for once on this podcast. Let Richie live out his dream of me not talking for an hour and a half. So I guess I'll shut up now and toss it over to your co-host with the most, Richie the WizKid.
I'm sure I've said this before on the podcast, but I've realized that like outside of our friendship, I don't shut up. Like when I'm around other people, I get to do all my talking out because I know when I'm with Miles that he's just going to keep going and going and going. And then when I find other friends outside of this podcast that don't like to shut up, I get really annoyed with them. So I guess like, I'm like, man, I don't need to be around those people at all. They never shut up. And I never say that to Miles. I'll like joke about that with Miles, but I never actively think that about Miles. So it's weird to me that people can do the same thing, but they'll annoy me. But I mean, I just love you, man. I guess that's all there is to it.
Aww.
So that was a weird tangent to start the show off there. This episode, I was a little wrong on this episode at first. I don't know why in my mind, when I thought of Homer having his mouth wired shut, I was thinking of the episode where like part of his back gets broken or his neck gets broken and he has to lie on his back all the time and he can sing opera. And I kept thinking season 13 is way too soon for that. And I was right because I had the complete wrong episode. So that'll be something fun to talk about. But I guess, before I spoil the whole story, I should throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the soccer mummy. That's the first movie he'll be in. He is Miles.
I'll have you know, I thought about doing the entire podcast like this as a bit, but then I decided that'd be really annoying, so I'm not going to do that.
This isn't Camp/Horror.
Yeah, it was. I would torture those guys. You're not wrong. I know you know this, but it's a good story to tell that like casually plug Camp/Horrorcast that you should check out live on Twitch on Monday nights. But yeah, we did. Wilson Namo, who's a great dude, but he picked a movie with subtitles, which I typically despise. So I decided to do the entire podcast, or at least a good chunk of it. I did cave eventually, but I was just writing stuff on paper with a Sharpie and putting it up to my webcam. It got old real fast, but I didn't stop doing it.
I noticed you guys have been popping up on Facebook, especially Rafi, and that dude just always seems like he is in such a good mood and so happy for reasons other than the obvious. So it's nice to see that guy smiling all the time.
Dude, Rafael Ramirez, since you call him Rafael, excuse me, Rafael Ramirez is like legitimately one of the best dudes I have met in comedy. And like him and I met through the Camp/Horrorcast podcast. I know that's how you met him as well. But man, he is such a just supportive dude. Like things that like don't like on a small scale, like people do this all the time, but I just noticed he does it all the time. And it's things like sharing comedy posts, like just putting it out there and like showing up, dude. He came out and saw me at this VFW show that I did like week or two ago. That honestly was kind of you know what? Ask him about it. He'll tell you what's up. Him and his lovely girlfriend Hope, who's also an awesome person.
He was like the first person to congratulate us on our 300th episode too.
Yeah,
like,
dude. He's just a supportive, really nice, lovely human being. I love Raph and Hope both. They're great people.
All right,
and you can check out Raph on Camp/Horrorcast. If you don't like us, we're being really nice today for some reason. But if you don't like our usual stick, but you're still somehow listening on episode 314, you can check out Raph at Camp/Horrorcast.
He's not just a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anyway, that was a weird, like we plugged another show for several minutes now. I don't even know what's happening.
No, you just think that when you talk, it's several minutes pass by because that's how it feels.
Fair.
So yeah, I had to bring it back around to the
back to the original point.
So we can start the show now.
Are you lighting me? Is that what's happening? Close it up. We are talking about the episode Jaws Wired Shut today, which originally aired on the 1st of the 27th is what I almost just said.
The 1st of the 27th. which honestly would be towards the end of the 27th and not the 1st of the 27th.
Yeah. January 27th, 2002 is what I
The
was
19th
going
hour
for.
of January of 27. I'm sorry.
Jaws Wired Shut was actually supposed to kind of parody Eyes Wide Shut, which
Oh God.
Honestly, it was a movie that was supposed to, like, on paper, pre-production, everybody thought that movie was just going to be a much bigger deal than what it was. Because it was Stanley Kubrick and Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and like it was like this powerhouse people behind it, but it just didn't really happen the way they thought it would, and nonetheless they thought that this title would be like, oh yeah, everybody's gonna love that movie forever, and they'll always think of that when they watch this, or it didn't work out that way.
People probably think more about sharks than they do about Tom Cruise.
Fair.
The Jaws.
Because of Jaws?
It's in the title. I'm saying like they wanted to.
Oh, got you. No, I'm with you now. Sorry, I just whiffed on that layup.
Did you hear how rude? I hope everyone heard how rude you were to be right there.
How was I rude? What was rude about my?
You were following the rule of all never saying no to somebody, but your tone was all about the no on that one.
No, I legit just didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. I was not upset or knowing you. I will later, but we'll talk after this podcast.
My humor is very obscure, Miles, and I think you should know that by now.
Sometimes it is, dude, and I usually catch it, but not always. This one did not have a chalk gag again, which is like 3 or 4 episodes in a row. Yeah. Which I think that's interesting because if you remember, like when we talked with Mike Reese like a while ago, he talked about how like the extended couch gags were like a product of Mike Reese and Al Jean's era because they were always coming up short on episodes. But since the transition back to Al Jean, it seems like they've been running a little bit long, and they haven't really made any like interesting commentary on that in the director's commentary. And I haven't read anything about it, but it's just more of an observation that seems like worth noting for the time being.
I think with the neurosis of Al Jean and how like he's probably in his head all the time, he's probably jam-pack all the stuff into one episode, which probably makes it go, 30 seconds to 1 minute longer.
He probably, without Mike there to be like, yeah, it's fine, dude. Just turn it in.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be like you and me. Yeah, exactly.
This one had the couch gag on this one instantly made me think of you. One. Yeah, I knew you were going to. It's an homage to Charlie Chaplin. Specifically the scoundrel. No, what is it? What's the character? Oh my god,
the tramp.
The tramp. Thank you. Yes,
you said scoundrel and it ruined my brain. You wrinkled my brain.
That's a good thing, right? That's how I've always understood it.
Man, if you watch old Charlie Chaplin, even today, like a lot of it still holds up. A lot of it's still very funny. So if you're in a weird mood where you don't want to listen to somebody talk and we were just talking about SNL before the show started. SNL before SNL. Little skits.
Sure. Yeah. I can I could definitely see that.
Too far of a reach again for Miles. Okay. So this episode opens up with Homer relaxing in the backyard hammock.
That's the first line of the script. Yeah, we're on the same page again. See?
I'm just happy I can read it.
Yeah, it's big enough for you.
Yeah.
I was actually going to jump into the commentary real quick because I just want to go ahead and get the names out, if nothing else. Commentary on this one had Al Jean, Matt Selman, Matt Groening, Dana Gould, Pete Michaels, Carolyn Omine, and Joe Mantegna, who has nothing to do with this episode, but he just really loves The Simpsons. And anytime he's in the studio, they will literally just be like, yeah, come on in and do this commentary with us.
Yeah.
So he shows up sometimes.
I'm sure he makes it a lot more fun.
It's honestly, it's an interesting conversation. I do enjoy when he is on there, though admittedly he usually does have more to say specifically on the episodes he's involved in. Obviously, I mean, like he just has more insight to them.
So does he make the episode not have as much director commentary when he's there, when he wasn't involved with the episode?
No, honestly, he's not too bad about that either. Like, I mean, like, I guess arguably yes, just in the sense that like anytime somebody's there, it's taking up space from somebody that was involved. But no, he was actually pretty good about asking questions to kind of get people to like follow up. And he's also just very funny. Like he whenever people are joking on the commentary, he's quick-witted and will make a lot of like fun, like little jokes and puns and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
I enjoy when he's on the commentary, and it's not that I don't enjoy those full commentaries that do just get too jokey, but like See, I just said too jokey as if that's a bad thing. All I mean by that is it's fun to listen to. It's not productive for me to like be able to have like stuff to share on this podcast.
Yeah. Miles is always worried
is.
we're not gonna have enough to talk about, and
then we end up being 20 minutes into an episode. It's only 10. We're fine.
We could take like a 10-minute short and turn it into a 2-hour podcast.
I want people to start to like wonder, like, is this a best darn everything just like in disguise? That's the goal, really, every episode.
Gotcha.
What are they really talking about this week? It's a fun mystery.
As long as you keep teasing about BDEs at the end, we'll be fine.
That's all we got to do, man. You don't actually have to do it. You just have to tell people you're going to do it. And we still get to make buttons for it if we want to. It's fine.
Pretty sure that's how politicians rise to power.
Yeah. It's all about the button. All right, we're getting into it. Homer is relaxing in the backyard on a hammock, as Richie already stated, but he's also reading the latest issue of his favorite magazine, Pie Times, which I did laugh my ass off at.
I'm sure you did.
As somebody who used to be a High Times reader myself, the Pie Times thing was very, very funny. He's looking at centerfolds, which is funny too, because in this, it's like, oh, they're showing the filling now, which is kind of a dirty joke, but legitimately in High Time magazine, they have centerfolds, and it's just like really beautiful weed plants. So I love everything about this opening. And then we see that his relaxing evening is disrupted by the Springfield Gay Pride Parade, which the marchers declare, "We're here, we're queer, get used to it."
You do this every year. We are used to it.
Spoil sport. I, for the most part, think this is actually a pretty funny scene. We get some interesting stuff. There's my favorite one is Lesbians of the Caribbean. And it's mostly because this is a direct parody of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride from Disneyland. It's literally a set scene in which a pirate is like chasing a woman around like a barrel of some sort. And that's like the scene this is parodying. It made me laugh a lot. They get an expression of safe sex, which was like this weird robot, it kind of reminded me of the sex scene from Naked Gun, but it wasn't as good.
That's the total vibe I got from that too.
We get a fun thing that has been memed quite a bit, or at least like put into a lot of like Simpsons fun facts and things of that, or lists. Basically, they have a float dedicated to gay people in the closet. And there's two closets, one with a man's arm and the other with a woman's arm. And they're saying, "We're gay, we're glad, but don't tell mom and dad." And it's very, very obviously Patty and Mr. Smithers.
I did not catch Smithers' voice on that. I was so like stuck on Patty where I was like, is this the actual first like full reference? And I was like, no, I thought there was one a few seasons ago. And then I got stuck in that loophole of I don't remember anymore at this point.
It is definitely Smithers and Patty. And what's interesting too is, of course, Patty, there is an episode where Patty does come out, but that's years after this happened, or after this episode aired. I did think Marge's line.
Is this our first like venture into that realm with her?
I don't think so. I think that we've had every time they've appeared. I think there's subtle hints to it, or sometimes
not every time that they've appeared. Not from the earlier.
Maybe season. Not every time. We've done a lot of Patty and Selma episodes at this point, though. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I do like Marge's line. Here's what I was going to say. And it's just because it's so silly, but also it reminds me of how like old people won't like talk about people being gay. They'll say like, "Oh, that's my son and his roommate." And it's like, yeah, his roommate that they've lived together for 20 years and like, take family or take roommate portraits together and send it out to Christmas and stuff like that. It's like they're a gay couple. It's just like, taboo of a certain generation. And that gives Marge's line here kind of gave me vibes of that, because it's almost like like purposely naive is the word I would use. Like wouldn't it be great if that man and woman got together? It's just
right over her
head. Let's see. I already mentioned the Lesbians of the Caribbean float.
We get the celebration of brunch float.
Hey, I think we can all celebrate brunch. I don't know if that needs to specifically be a pride thing or not, but I mean, by all means, anytime anybody wants to celebrate brunch, I'm down.
You guys can have it. It's too early in the morning for Richie.
I don't know, dude.
It's
You get
late
to have
in the morning for Richie.
you get to have pancakes and like chicken and waffles. Chicken waffles is my go-to for what it's worth. Then also like alcohol. It's pretty great.
Just
pretty good way to spend 11 a.m.
And the fact that you know the exact time to have it is the kicker there.
I think it's like anytime from 10 to 2 is like legal cutoff.
I'm glad we're learning all the official legal rules of brunch here.
Yeah, they're very strict about it. They'll send the oh shit, what was it? The something mafia, lavender mafia. They'll send the lavender mafia. The lavender mafia. Basically, though, this ends with Homer deciding that, this is the part where it's just a little bit like, it's a little dated by all means, because basically there's a group of gay dogs that are coming along, and Santa's little helper is very clearly interested in going and hanging out with them. But Homer, like, calls them freaks and says, like, not under my house or something like that, or not under my roof or something of that nature. Basically denying Santa's little helper's right to be himself, which is sad. But it ends with,
but didn't he get it on with a female dog episode seasons ago and had a bunch of puppies that got almost turned into a coat for Mr. Burns? So
man, I don't know that he's ever actually discussed his sexual orientation on the show, but I would guess bi, based on this, yeah,
that bitch is bi.
Yeah, good one, nice. I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
The Simpsons decide they just want to go find a way to get away from all the shenanigans, and the way they do so is by seeing shenanigoats at the Springfield Googleplex. Shenanigoats did make me crack up every time. Is that
the name of the new Thor movie? I don't remember anymore at this point. I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh wow! Interesting that you made that joke then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. We'll save it for our next Marvel conversation if we ever do, in fact, get around to another best darn everything.
I mean, Thor is known for having two majestic goats that he rides into battle eventually. So,
well, there you go. There's a fun joke where they talk about how a movie's rated PG-13 because of brief rudeness, which doesn't offend the kids, but a brief appearance by Gary Shandling does.
Oh.
And so this next scene is entirely based off of a conversation that Al Jean and Matt Selman had at an award show once. And basically they were just both voicing their frustration of how ridiculous the amount of previews before a movie and all the various stuff that they do. Because in this we see there's the word scramble, which is very obvious. It's Mott Hanks. And then they're like, oh, it's obviously Tom Hanks, but it actually turns out to be Odom Shank, who is, I'm guessing, based on Apu's reaction, a Bollywood star, though that could be jumping to a conclusion I shouldn't be.
He's certain. India's answer to Brian Dennehy, okay?
I don't know if that means that he's a Bollywood star or not, but I'm still sticking with my guess if I'm on Jeopardy, is all I'm saying. But it is Odom Shank. Then there's a public service announcement from Itchy and Scratchy to basically be quiet, which is actually really well done.
I wish they would do that before actual movies. Use that exact scene.
It's so fun that you said that, Richie. It is so freaking fun that you said that because they do, in fact, talk about that on the commentary. They put a lot of effort into this. They made it look really crisp. And they made it in a way that it could be played in front of movies because they so wanted it to be picked up and played in front of movies. That was literally the goal. But according to Matt Selman, that was as far as that got.
So you're saying they didn't want kids to see Itchy cutting Scratchy open with his intestines spelling, please no talking?
Well, I think it's more so they could have done it an R-rated movie, and I could easily see today a place like Alamo Drafthouse doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, kids look at worse things on the internet anyways, right? So who cares?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of true. But Dana Gould did come up with chime in with a story where he actually did very clearly remember going and seeing the movie Field of Dreams, which I should have looked up already what year that came out, but I can't, so I'm doing it now. 1989. 1989, which actually really adds up for this story that he tells, because he said he remembers going to see Field of Dreams, and the movie theater actually played a clip of The Simpsons just from the Tracy Ullman shorts. Essentially, they actually played one of those before the movie started, and he distinctly remembers a guy like next to him, basically leaning over to his friend and being like, "Oh, hey, I think they're gonna make that into a show." And then he ended up getting a job on said show, years later. But so there is a precedent for The Simpsons being played in a movie theater. I remember seeing the Simpsons Butterfinger commercials played before movies at whatever one is on 35 and oh my god, the theater that you and I saw Karate Kid the remake at Fossil Creek.
Oh, Fossil Creek,
yeah,
in Haltom City.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man, the good old days. So you're saying
at one point that was my go-to theater, like for like my entire the entire time I was in high school.
I've seen many movies there, even after high school. But that's okay.
Well, it's still close to you for sure.
We had a joint experience there with the Karate Kid, so all is well in the world.
But anyway, this whole thing is just literally just how Al Jean and Matt Selman were very frustrated with this whole concept. And I also remember there was lawsuits at one point because somebody basically sued a movie theater because of like the ridiculous. It was like more than half an hour of advertisements and previews, and the movie started like half an hour after it was advertised to. And I do remember there was some sort of like compensation that like included like basically they would limit the amount of time before your showtime. Like if your movie says it's going to start at 1, it's going to start by at least like 1:25 now or whatever.
Man, it's honestly like as somebody that loves previews, there's still a point where too much is too much. Mm-hmm. And especially in modern times where you're not really going to ever see anything that you haven't seen on like IMDb or on Twitter or Facebook somewhere at some points. Like there's rarely a preview that catches you off guard in this day and age that you see in the actual theaters. So it's, the last movie I saw, was it Bob's Burger? I don't remember, but there were so many freaking previews in front of the movie that it drove me absolutely crazy. And it's like, you could start hearing the music at the beginning of them and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's this one, or oh, it's that one. Oh, it's hey, now they're showing a new trailer for Bullet Train that's completely different from the first one, and it's twice as long. And now I've seen the whole damn movie.
Too freaking much, yeah.
Yeah, like it really is. It's pissing me off, and it's just the older I get, the more I follow society's feelings on it, which I hate saying out loud. Be an individual, Miles, but society's right in this sense.
Well. Society is right, and the movie theater announcer is finally going to put like mercy on this theater because he says the movie's up next. But first, some previews for coming attractions, and like they just keep doing stuff like that. We get Soccer Mummy, which admittedly does.
You got to sell it. You got to sell it. You got to sell it just like you would in the movie. It's Ed O'Neill, of course. We would both watch this. Justin's soccer team was in last place, just like the carrot and the derpty derp. You got to do it just like the South Park guys on that one. It really sells it.
Oh my god, dude! My favorite part is when he's looking at a well-endowed woman, and they're like, "Oh no, the doctor said not to let him get a boner."
When you hear cloth ripping.
Yeah, but even Homer is like seemingly enjoying this, but you can see him muttering like so many previews. At one point he laughs,
but it's a laugh of impatience.
Mm-hmm. And then the announcer comes on again after this one, and now our feature presentation. If that's a phrase you like to hear, then you'll love Movie Call. And Homer literally loses at this point. He screams, jumps up to his feet, runs to the screen, and starts chanting, "Start the movie," which gets the audience in Springfield style. They love to form a mob, so they do.
Yeah, doesn't take long.
But you know what? Ushers are on standby because they know the crowd is out of control. And they also know that if they wanted to live forever, they wouldn't have become ushers.
It's like different versions of the squeaky voice teen too. That's the part that I enjoyed about that. I was like, wait, I feel like I've thought you're the same character, all four of you at different parts of the series.
It's like if you play a video game and they just do like a color swap to make the difference in the character. Yeah.
Those new bad guys on stage 4 of Streets of Rage aren't fooling me, Miles.
They bust out a like ginormous Kit Kat bar and start breaking it into the like logical quads you'd assume you'd break a Kit Kat bar into. And they like give one to each of them and they're like using it as a baton.
Yeah. I mean,
inside, mind you, Homer's riling the crowd. Stop the madness. Start the movie.
Maybe we should try to calm Dad down.
But Bart has a better idea.
I prefer to egg him on. Hey, Dad, has the movie started yet?
Ah! Homer's losing it, dude. Yeah, I love Bart's line there is fantastic. Yeah, I'd rather egg him on. And he does it in just such a nonchalant way, too. Marge is doing her best, though, trying to explain, like, you're going to get in trouble.
I'm not scared of those ushers. What are they going to do? Advance on me?
Correct. That is what they do, yes. They actually get Homer out into the parking lot, but Homer flees while they're chasing him with those Kit Kat bars. Meanwhile, at the park, Mayor Quimby is dedicating a statue to Dedrick Tatum with his arm extended, showing like his boxing glove out, essentially. What is it? And so for helping the KO litter in our community, I hereby dedicate this statue of Dedrick Tatum.
Litter is my most treacherous foe. I would like to eat its children.
That line specifically, the Eat Its Children line, is, of course, a line directly taken from his inspiration, Mike Tyson. This was back in the year 2000 when Mike Tyson was promoting a fight in Scotland against Lennox Lewis. The actual quote was, "I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah." And, admittedly, Mike Tyson did years later come back and say that he actually considered Lennox Lewis to be a world-class opponent. And even after the fight, he actually helped to wipe blood away from Lewis's face, which is apparently a big sign of respect to your opponent. So Mike Tyson actually had really nice things to say about him. But pre-fight, he said, "I was just trying to sell the fight." And what better way than to claim that you want to eat somebody's children?
Yeah. So in VR boxing, when the match is over and I run over and punch the ref and the other player, that's bad, you're saying? They're computers, so it's
I'm
not
not saying it's bad. I'm saying you're chaotic neutral is what I would go with.
And you got to watch out for what Mike Tyson thinks, because what he thinks is unthinkable. That's the Titanic right there.
I like that. The unthinkable ship.
See, it catches you.
Anyway, Homer runs smack dab into this boxing statue with the outstretched boxing glove or
He's
whatever.
doing like his jab. The statue's doing the jab. So.
And he straight up just knocks himself like stupid. He runs jaw first right into his glove.
So that means Tatum is 2-0 against Homer.
My mouth! My beautiful mouth!
Excellent bout. Now we go party.
And Quimby and Tatum just leave Homer like in pain on thing, but you're 100% right. Homer has now lost twice to Tatum. And Tatum like celebrates the victory. That's my favorite part. Excellent bout. Yeah. This is a very short first act. This is a 5-minute, 11-second first act, which has been a little bit unusual for our recent episodes. It seems like they've been pretty evenly balanced, but I still like this episode a lot, and I can see why they just needed to kind of, on this one, give us a reason to get to what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it's random, but it also still kind of, I'd say it's like 75% random, but 25% falls in the lines of the story and where it needs to go. So not as random as some of the ones in past seasons, but definitely not like last week where it flowed so effortlessly and it all kind of seemed together.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. The flow of last week's episode was like top tier though. And this one I think is a little bit more classic, where a lot of times those first few minutes really are kind of just like almost like a throwaway. But I if they're going to do that, I would prefer it be 5 minutes and not 7 minutes.
Yeah. Don't waste so much time getting to the point.
Exactly. So we do open up our second act with Homer at Dr. Hibbert's office. He is learning the news that he's going to have his jaw wired shut, which he has a easy, explainable pamphlet on that topic ready to hand to Marge.
He won't be able to talk for quite some time. I've wired his jaw shut. It's all explained in this pamphlet.
Right, the line Richie just read that I recapped so that Marge.
I was trying to skim. I was trying to skim really quickly to where it said pamphlet, and after I spent like 0.2 seconds looking, I went just read the line.
Panic. So you ruined his life, or so your life is ruined. I can't read. It's worse.
Throws it right back in his own.
So Marge explains to Homer that he's not going to be able to eat solid foods, and then she looks to Hibbert and is like, "Oh no, those are his favorites." It's not that there aren't. He runs to a suicide machine, which just so happens to be set up and turned on in Dr. Hibbert's office. Marge is like upset and trying to protest Homer killing himself, but Hibbert explains, "Oh, don't worry, I'm a man his size. That just provides sexual release."
So you could tell it's the same universe as Futurama, because first it starts in the doctor's offices, and in 1,000 years it'll be out on the street corner.
Yeah, Booth. It has to evolve. I agree.
There you go.
Homer is back at home with his jaw wired shut, but he's not taking Dr. Hibbert's orders. He's attempting to eat a steak, but it's not working. So he instead cuts it into small pieces and snorts it instead. It does work, but you can tell it hits him pretty hard because he gets a little woozy. Bart is the always opportunistic person he is, so he sees that his dad can't protest. So what does he do? "Hey, Dad, I'm going to make a human yo-yo. If you object, clearly say no." No objections, eh? Well, that's great. And this joke is arguably dated, but I still love it so much because basically Bart has a camera and Milhouse padded up. And he's like, "Hey, Milhouse, you ready to imitate that Jackass show?"
All those disclaimers made me want to do it more.
I get that. I do. I understand.
This is 2002, man, like early 2002. Like, you remember how we thought back then?
Mm-hmm. And Jackass was like just in its like heyday. That's like first movie.
Yep. So yeah, we all movie Jackass back.
The woes continue for Homer. It's been a tough ride with this jaw shut so far, and it's no different at Moe's Tavern later. While hanging out at the bar with his friends, Duff Man shows up.
"Hey, Duff lovers, does anyone in this bar love Duff?"
Carl's excited to see him, and Lenny's surprised because Newsweek said that he died of liver failure.
"Duff Man can never die. Only the actor who plays him. Oh, yeah."
So basically they're having a trivia contest. It's the Duff Trivia Challenge. And if you get the question correct, you can win a lifetime supply of Duff.
"Okay, chug monkeys, what beverage brewed since ancient times is made from hops and grains?"
Lenny contemplates for a second before saying, "How about ancient hop grain juice?" Homer's frantically gesturing towards his Duff. "Well, wait a minute. Homer's trying to make a guess." He reaches over the bar and actually starts splashing beer out of Moe's tap, which just drives Moe angry. "Well, what are you doing? You getting some kind of booze all over me?" The air horn sounds indicating that time is up. Duff Man reveals the answer is, of course, beer, wishing them Duff luck. Homer knew the answer the entire time. Carl was like, "I never would have figured that out."
Oh, that's the kind of thing you just got to know.
And Homer's literally whimpering, but unable to get his words out. Now,
the best part about it was that, like, on the beer can or beer bottle that Homer looked at, it literally said like grains and what the other hops, or it said hops and grains on it. So, like, Homer didn't know the answer, but he happened to look at the beer bottle and it said it right in the same beer they're all drinking right in front of him.
Yeah, well, and like it's just such like a common, like, I mean, a bartender that doesn't know the answer to that is just absurdly ridiculous. It's such an
Mo's
easy
going through a
answer.
lot the last 2 seasons. Okay, like he's got a lot on his plate.
You know, that's fair. I should be sympathetic to his needs. I understand that is the case, but man,
Mo screen time, Mo problems.
That's frustrating for Homer for sure, and it's too bad he didn't have his little drawing board or chalkboard thing yet.
Yep.
Could have won him a lifetime supply of beer.
For the easiest answer of all time.
Yeah. We are actually about to get the scene where Homer does start communicating with that chalkboard I mentioned. A couple things on that. So first of all, Pete Michaels actually did have a throat surgery where he was unable to talk for a little while. So he would actually have to write and communicate with like a little board like that. And he said the funniest thing about it was like across the board, for whatever reason, like he would like, order a coffee or food or whatever. And like anytime he would order with the board, people would treat him as if he were deaf and like talk slowly and loudly at him. And he's like, no, I can hear you. I just can't speak. But the other idea of this was kind of an ironic idea that had been swirling around. I think it was Al Jean and a couple of the other writers had been swirling around this idea of what would happen if your stupidest character wasn't allowed to make stupid choices. And that's kind of how this joke or this storyline came to be, where Homer is having his jaw wired shut. And what we're going to see over the next, act and a half or so is Homer is arguably going to be a better human, a better father, a better husband, a better
There's no
friend.
arguing against that point.
Well, the argument comes in the form of, is he actually, if he's not himself, is he actually better for his environment? And that's kind of the interesting idea that we're going to see, especially with Marge's reaction to him. I think it's an interesting point. But yeah, he definitely is a more, I don't know if I would say the word better, but he's definitely a more attentive and caring and loving person.
He's a better human being. There's no way to get around that. It's
All
the
right.
issue is that he's trapped Marge into her role within the family, that when Marge isn't doing what she's normally doing, being the wet blanket, her words, not mine, that it makes her feel insecure and like something's wrong. So it's basically Stockholm syndrome. But
last time she was drinking wine when this happened.
Exactly, yeah. So that's just some stuff that she needs to deal with. But it does, in fact, as we will see, make him a much better human being.
So as Marge and Homer lay in bed together, Homer busts out his little writing board, and Marge's response is always, I am not going to make you another spare rib smoothie. Most people with their jaws wired shut don't gain weight.
So how was your day?
Instead of doing that, he actually writes it on the chalkboard.
I figured with my hand over my mouth, you would know that that's what I was doing.
Is that what that's supposed to be? I thought that was you talking through your wired jaw. I'm sorry.
No.
My bad, Homer.
I was trying to figure out a way to do the chalkboard thing without doing the chalkboard thing.
He writes, so how was your day? And Marge is genuinely surprised.
You really want to know?
And Homer nods enthusiastically, and Marge explains that she was counting the corn cobs on the curtains in the kitchen when who should ring the doorbell but Ned Flanders. It's a really cute moment where Homer writes out the word dough. And we learn basically that, it seems he wanted to ban culottes in the schools. And pardon my French, but sometimes that man is a goofy doofy.
Okay, this is Homer's brain talking now. I'll use 2 hands for that one.
She thinks Flanders is annoying. This marriage just got interesting.
That's what it took to spice things up in the bedroom.
Yeah.
They're going to hate fuck about how much they hate Ned Flanders.
Hey, whatever works for you, Homer.
The next day we see Homer's already doing more attentive things to the rest of his family. He's feeding Maggie, for instance, and having thoughts like, she is so cute. But when he leans in to give her a kiss, her pacifier actually gets stuck in Homer's jaw wire. And then they start like spinning around trying to like get it unhooked, and it's not working. Homer actually has to grab another pacifier and like trick Maggie into jumping from one to the other. Essentially,
It's from Homer's POV where you see Maggie's face and they're swinging around to Fly to the Bumblebee playing.
And I will say that this gave me big vibes about going all the way back to season 1 when Bart stole Grandpa's dentures and was spinning around from the fan. The animation I felt had like some major similarities in that, which was kind of cool. It almost felt like it was an homage to themselves to some extent.
Maybe it was, Miles. Maybe it was.
What else do we see? Lisa gets some attention from her father because he noticed that she's upset and asks her what's wrong. She also is surprised that he actually cares, but explains that they were playing four squares and I called no double tap.
Hold up. She's like, you want to know what happened? And he erases what he wrote on the whiteboard.
Oh, you're right.
Writes, yes. And then she goes, really?
Really?
And he erases the word yes and rewrites
yes. Yeah,
which almost
100%.
makes it more sweet that he took the time to write it twice.
Instead of just double tapping.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa explains, we were playing four squares and I called no double taps. And then Ralph double taps and I said, you're out. And he said, I can do a somersault, which has nothing to do with anything.
She did a really good Ralph impersonation there too, but for what it's worth.
Thanks.
And you don't break the rules of Foursquare. That is a pact. We all remember those days, Miles. Like when the rules are put down on the court, you have to follow them, even if you're Ralph.
If you're the server, you make the rules, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa was serving. I do like Homer's response, though. Even though he's trying to like be sweet, he's still Homer. So he thinks to himself, maybe a hug will cork her cry hole.
Thanks for listening, Dad.
We also cut to Homer and Bart building a model together, though while they're getting along, they're still not getting on the same page because it's half like warship and half airplane. So they need to work on coordination.
Uh-huh.
Bart actually tells a story to his dad, which is kind of fun. Like they're able to connect and actually like, have a conversation for a bit.
So the substitute teacher comes in and says her name is Mrs. Duty, and everyone's looking at me like, take it, Bart, run with it. And it hits me. I've become a clown, a class clown, and it sickens me.
We once again hear Homer's thoughts. Wow, Bart has feelings. Mistress Duty.
I mean, that's like a layup right there. I can understand why people would be looking at Bart to take that and run with it.
For sure. Even Abe is benefiting from Homer's lack of ability to talk, basically, because we cut to Homer sitting attentively as Abe tells a story.
3 wars back, we called sauerkraut Liberty Cabbage, and we called Liberty Cabbage Super Slaw. And back then, we called a suitcase was known as a Swedish lunchbox. Of course, nobody knew that but me.
And Homer actually, nobody knew that but me. Homer actually writes, and then what happened? Urging Abe to continue his story.
Anyway, long story short, it's a phrase whose origins and complicated are rambling.
It would be appropriate that long story short has a long and complicated and rambling origin story. I like that. Homer has definitely had a noticeable change in his personality and his demeanor. And it makes Marge think, maybe we could try to go to that Springfield formal ball that last year you ruined because you got drunk and rode a donkey.
And then she talks about how that donkey is just a bad influence on him.
There's also a really kind of cute / funny scene here where Marge is like, oh, but I need to polish your jaw wires. And Homer starts tapping his foot, which he's wearing his barefoot slippers, which makes it even more dog-like as he kicks his hind leg. Yeah.
As she's scrubbing his teeth wires, he's doing the whole, you scratch the dog under the belly and they flap their foot on the ground nonstop.
Exactly. Yeah. So we cut to the Springfield Country Club where Homer and Marge are dressed to the nines, but Homer's still wearing his headgear. It basically makes it... Oh, I do like Marge's line. A formal, the one place you can wear a tiara and not look crazy.
Uh-huh. So, how are we enjoying the festivities?
And Homer writes "so hungry" on his chalkboard.
Yes, the music is from southern Hungary. That's quite near. Have some money.
I love this so much, that the idea that just like rich people are like, oh, you know things, have some cash. That just really cracked me up for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But Homer's not just impressing Burns; he's impressing a lot of people. Like, for instance, the man with the wealthy man with a googly eye, who's used to having people laugh at him, but Homer didn't. Though, of course, we can see that he was trying to. We also see a woman compliment Marge that her husband hasn't taken any hors d'oeuvres, which is almost killing Homer. Like, you can tell he's very, very upset by this, but it's somehow that's seen as a good thing by the wealthy.
It's Mrs. Maxstone Witherball,
who invites them over because of Marge's effective henpecking, I might add, invites the Simpsons to dine with them over at the Blue Danube. No, that's the song. It's some fancy restaurant.
I was just thinking, I feel like almost every episode this season has had Moe and Mr. Burns in a scene.
Interesting.
Like, I know that they were talking about getting back to the family stuff, but I feel like we've gotten a whole lot more of Moe and Burns this season so far. With the only exception, maybe Mr. Burns wasn't in the episode where Moe went back to his college town. But like it seems like I don't know. It just seems like they've been getting a lot more.
I think it's because you got the Simpsons family is where Homer spends 8 hours of his day. Work with Burns is where he spends 8 hours of his day, and the bar with Moe is where he spends 8 hours of his day.
Yeah,
Boom.
I mean it tracks, but it's just with all the randomness of the last few seasons and different characters getting stories. It's interesting that it's almost like they've got their key players that they can get like a good one-off joke on and use them in the episode real quickly.
Sure. Yeah, no, it makes sense that it's like a well of jokes they can go to with those characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Marge and Homer are having a beautiful moment together. They're dancing, and Marge looks Homer in the eye.
This has been one of the most magical evenings of my life.
I'm horny.
Can you say that again, please?
I'm horny.
I don't know what you said, but I'm sure it was beautiful. Give that man an Emmy.
Marge says, "This is the kind of night I thought we could never have together." And just then, the donkey from the previous year's incident, an incident-free evening, but just then the donkey from the previous year's not incident-free party shows up. But Homer, as a reformed man, he turns
enticing
the donkey
Homer
away. Yeah, it's literally egging him on like Bart did earlier.
It's like ride me.
Even Dr. Hibbert and Mrs. Hibbert are there dancing at the club as well, and they dance next to Homer and Marge, and Hibbert points out that they could drop by tomorrow, or Homer could drop by tomorrow and have those jaw wires removed. You'll be just the way you used to be. That's when Marge is horrified. Mm-hmm. But then Hibbert also has good news for Reverend Lovejoy, who has to put in those peck implants on, or who can put in those peck implants on Thursday.
Super.
And that brings us to our end of our second act. That's at 12 minutes and 51 seconds, which means that one
almost
was
an 8-minute
act. Yeah, which means that these last two are almost evenly split for what it's worth. That's interesting.
That is interesting. Tell me more.
Well, the jaw wires come off is how we start the third act. This is probably the grossest scene in Simpsons in a while, but also really funny because Dr. Hibbert is so offended by Homer's breath that he has to take his shoes off to cover the smell.
I mean, you might still be able to brush your teeth with the wires on, but definitely the inside mouth breath would be bleh.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably a way to do it.
Meat through a straw.
Smoothies, yeah, that's not great. Homer explains at the bar that when he couldn't talk, he learned to listen, and they all decide to give it a try because you'd be surprised what you might hear if you just close your mouth once in a while. Lenny and Homer and Carl all shut up, and from the back we hear Moe.
Hello? Yeah, I'd like to arrange for an escort, please. To where? How about Orgasmville? Hello? Hello?
Click. He walks, hangs up, walks out into the main room.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
And at this point, Lindsay Nagel walks up, who is a booker for the show Afternoon Yak, a afternoon talk show. I do love though, like there's a really it's very random, kind of silly, but like basically one of them is like, "Why are you here?" And they just turn to her and she's like, "I'm an alcoholic," and then she goes right back into her spiel.
And she's like, "Hey, Homer, will you come on our show?" And he's like, "Sure, Alki, we'll be there."
And so Afternoon Yak is actually a parody of The View from 2002, which it featured like Barbara Walters, Joy something or other, Lisa Ling, Star Bayhart, I think is her name. It was that cast, and it's pretty funny. I will give it credit. They did a good job. And for further proof of that, Barbara Walters herself was actually a big fan of this segment to the point that she played it on The View, or at least she played clips from it on The View. She thought it was really funny, really well done, and just a fun segment from the episode. Though she was, I believe, playfully annoyed that they drew her with gray hair.
I feel like a couple of them throughout the scene sounded like they were talking like they're Elmer Fudd.
Interesting.
The way that they would say lines and stuff, it had that just like a little bit of a like the mispronunciation of like the letter S or something like that. It just sounded slightly off with a couple of the characters on me. But I mean, intentionally, like we were making fun of them. But
I'll be honest, I did not catch that at all. I mean, there's definitely Popeye the Sailor Man references that we're going to get here.
Yeah, that's later on, though. I'm talking about
I did not get that here. I could have just missed it, though.
Yeah, it's just a couple times they talked, and I was like, "Oh, that was a little off to me." But it's caricature, so that's the way it goes.
So when they have Marge and Homer on the show, they kind of go into their story, but they're making fun of the fact that like all the girls are just essentially making it like sexual innuendos, like things like, so tell me, what's it like kissing a man with a mouthful of metal?
My boyfriend has a metal tongue stud.
Who cares what's on his tongue, long as he's a stud where it counts. I'm talking downtown.
Woo, yeah, woo, woo, woo.
I love this next line only because it says Barbara talking. Marge, what was Homer like before he broke his jaw?
That's what bloke.
I didn't make that typo. I'm reading the script. It is what it is.
No, like that's how she said it. That's the stuff I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Then see, I just missed that entirely.
Well, he was eating all the time. We'd be making love, and he'd have a mouthful of Hershey's miniatures.
Crackle is my favorite.
I hope that was the only miniature in the bedroom.
I'm talking downtown.
Oh! And before he broke his jaw, he never listened, but now he takes to heart everything I say.
Well, as much as humanly possible.
Ooh.
Okay, so now I see what you're saying, like the reckless, criminal behavior.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, weird. I don't know why they chose to do that, honestly. But obviously, good catch. I did not. I just was probably caught up in my head thinking about this Barbara Walters real life thing. I did a little bit. It's okay, though. I still do.
You gotta be a little crazy to pay attention to things like that.
Oh yeah, they show a clip of Homer's old behavior where he got in a fight with an ostrich who ended up choking him out and pecking him
because he was trying to cook it.
Yeah, he was trying to eat it. They point out that it's easy to change, but what's hard is not changing back.
Do you promise not to revive your weckwis ways?
I don't know. The demolition derby is next month.
Please, homie. No more craziness. For me.
Well, okay. For you, I'll be as dull as Dilbert.
Very good. Our next topic, my son still wets the bed.
And we see Luann dragging Milhouse on stage. Milhouse crying, "You told me we were going to Red Lobster."
Man, there was more wascally wabbits in there than I thought there were.
The the last part of this episode is a story of be careful what you wish for Marge, because she comes home to find that the house is all clean just the way I left. And when she hears from the next room Homer crying out, she's almost relieved.
I'm going to kill you.
Well, so much for the new Homer. But as she walks in, she realizes that they're rehearsing for a play.
Yes, and I was merely reading the title. I'm going to kill you.
Oh, it's just a false alarm.
Yep, nothing to get excited about.
Well, I'll be in the kitchen if you need me.
Professor Van Doren, so good to see you.
And Homer's looking at his script in this line, but then they switch the camera angle and we see that a distinguished-looking man has actually come into the Simpsons home, and Van Doren is like, rehearsing a play, I see. This is such a stupid but such a good joke. I like it so much.
Homer's gotten so dull, he's even going to bed at like 7:30 now, man.
He drinks milk instead of beer.
He gets a new milk glass, too, when the old milk glass is too old because it's been sitting out for too long.
And this is where we start to hear Marge's thoughts.
This place is so boring. If somebody doesn't do something interesting, I'm going to have to. But what?
We get a gust of wind blow from the window, and it actually makes a flyer or an entry form for the demolition derby, the one Homer was talking about, fly off the dresser and directly into Marge's hand.
The demolition derby? That'll scratch my itch.
Homer,
Which,
leaves.
To be fair, we learned that she has a lust for excitement many, many seasons ago. She's always got that itch to have scratched. So
that's
Homer's
true. Yeah,
just been feeling it.
Yeah, and if he's not, then she's gonna find something. Marge leaves, but Homer bursts awake and he's like, Marge is gone. But at least the demolition derby form is. What? He cries out, no, as we cut to Marge entering the derby in the family station wagon. She pulls up to the stadium, puts a racing helmet on, and they just let her drive right in.
Yeah, there's only 8 cars involved, but Marge waited till the last second to show up, so it's a good thing she did. Or else they would have been a car down.
And now smashy as they have the derby underway. Otto is there. Is there any other recognizable faces I'm not thinking of? I know Otto's there.
I don't know why I kept thinking the like Hummer looking vehicle with the flames on it was going to be Bart. I don't know why I kept thinking, because I could not see that.
That's just like his nighttime hobby.
Well, I couldn't see anybody in the driver's seat, so I was like, it's got to be a kid, like
That's
Nelson
funny.
or somebody. But
Nelson would have been fun too.
Then later, I saw there was an actual silhouette driving behind it. So
animation error. I will say, in terms of usually the Simpsons are pretty good about getting some details right, but this one I thought was weird that they missed, because in demolition derbies, drivers don't actually hit each other head on. They drive in reverse and hit each other with the back of their vehicle.
I thought they side swiped them.
Well, they will do anything to protect the engine, essentially, because if they lose the engine, they cannot continue. So that's why they would never do the plowing head first like Marge does so many times in this one. But I do love
that the engine's in the back.
Maybe that's what it is. I do love that Otto gets flipped on his side, but he's in his school bus, so he's able to use the little stop sign to push himself back up. I thought that was really fun.
Come on, baby.
Marge is getting into it, man. She's like, catch you later, radiator. And then internally we hear, my God, I hit someone, then I taunted him. I've never felt more alive. And then
she gets hit.
And immediately she's like, what was I thinking trying to feel alive? Forget that. Marge is starting to freak out a little bit. She's being gunned down by several other cars. She's like, don't hurt me. I'm not like you people. I'm loved.
And that's where the SUV with the flames on it starts going after her.
Yep, it's sends her helmet flying into the stands where Cletus catches it.
Cletus has had a lot of appearances this season too, now that I think about it. Not as many as Burns and Moe, but more
But
than
another
usual.
character you get a line like this out of real easy.
I caught a head. Oh,
Booney.
dang. It's been scooped out.
So he tosses the empty helmet aside, but a head he would have kept, mind you.
So we're going to get another instance right now of the rest of the Simpsons family showing up, but no Maggie.
Left at Flanders' house, obviously.
I guess so.
Yeah, because Homer, Bart, and Lisa all arrive at the Derby and immediately see Marge is in trouble being gunned down by that SUV that you mentioned. But Homer has an idea, and actually, I'm sorry, Homer doesn't have an idea, but Bart sees a beer vendor, calls for a can, somehow gets served it because he's 10, tosses it to his father, who at this point,
Bart actually opens it. Bart's the one that opens it like a can of spinach.
Yeah, Bart. This place is getting shut down for sure. They're not operating anymore. But yeah, this is where we kind of turn into like a parody, or not, like an homage is a better word, of the Simpsons. Homer specifically to Popeye, Marge to olive oil, and there's some really cool stuff. And they did. She wasn't on the commentary, but they did shout out the animation director on this episode, Nancy Cruz. And she did a lot of the work to change the art style of The Simpsons, like things, for instance, like when Marge has the wavy arms. That was
perfect. Like that looks so good.
Agreed. It was very reminiscent of the old Popeye cartoons, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Homer gets his spinach beer, and he is off to save his wife.
Now let's get the show on the road.
Homer jumps up and is like, "Quit banging my wife,"
because all the cars are banging into Marge's car.
Yeah,
make that clear.
I know Homer's riding his donkey friend, by the way, and the Derby announcers are like can't believe it.
A man on a donkey. Never in my 6 weeks on the job have I ever seen the likes of this.
The donkey, unfortunately, is out of gas, metaphorically speaking. It's not a gas-powered donkey, but he's tired. And that's when he's able to, looks like I need some fuel for me mule. Gas for me ass. But unfortunately, when Homer gives the beer to the donkey, it doesn't have the same spinach-like effect it had on him. It just causes
it first.
For like a brief second, then he immediately passes out.
And you think it's gonna go, and then it falls asleep.
Yeah,
we've all been there.
But instead, Homer just runs over to the station wagon, pulls Marge to safety before the SUV delivers that final blow. And Bart and Lisa watch from the stands. Wow, isn't it great to have the old dad back?
I thought you liked the new dad.
Whatever. It's an easy reset for them.
Yep.
Marge is a little more grateful, though. She thanks her husband for the rescue, kisses Homer, and says, "This family needs a live wire. It's just not me."
That's okay, Marge. You're a good wet blanket. The kind I like wrapped around me.
Homer and Marge leave the Derby grounds as the black SUV driver smashes into the remaining vehicles, and the announcer is actually doing a sum up of like the show we just watched, as opposed to announcing what's happening in the arena.
When Homer's jaw was crush, his life took a nitro-burning funny turn.
Oh yeah, it's important to grow, but if you take it to the max, it's gonna get ugly.
In the mud.
And that brings us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode. Jaws wired shut. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to say about this episode?
Yeah, I have a prediction, Miles. I predict that in the next episode of the show, the car Marge is driving will be completely fine.
Yeah,
that thing is.
They get really good body work, dude.
Yeah, they do. They know a guy. But yeah, that car. You always forget that the Simpsons have two cars.
Because you hardly ever see it. Really, the only time you see it consistently is in the opening credits.
Exactly. Yeah, but you're used to seeing Homer's pink car because you see him driving to and from work most of the time. So, Marge was driving Marge's car, or what you would assume would be Marge's car in this one, but I have a feeling it's going to be just fine in the next one. I feel like this was a fun episode. I feel like it was definitely funny at parts, but this one I'm definitely going to say isn't quite up to par. It's close to being up to par with most of the rest of the season, but this one took a little bit. after how smooth last week's episode was, like story wise and flow wise, it almost did this episode a misservice, because when this one did a little bit more jumping around with the opening act and whatnot, it made me feel like a little less enthused about how this one all wrapped up by the end. So, and I don't like it when they don't say where Maggie's at. Like, yeah, you're right. Flanders was probably watching her. That makes a lot of sense. Or, they left her at home asleep because, whatever. But it just kind of bothers me a little bit.
No, I get it. They don't have like a regular, like it's a choice of convenience more than anything, and it's just kind of frustrating. I get that, but I also understand like why they don't need to throw in an extra line of dialogue. Like, good thing we left Maggie at Flanders.
They could have just had like Lisa holding Maggie like she was last week.
Yeah, I guess so. And yeah, especially since Lisa really didn't do anything. Like, she didn't buy a beer for her father or save her mom.
There you go. Give her something to do.
I have one more weird fact for this episode. It's from IMDb, and it's specifically that this episode is referenced on page 13 of the novelization of the 2004 global warming disaster movie, The Day After Tomorrow, which that movie starred Jake Gyllenhaal, and I actually like that movie a lot for what it's worth. But in the novelization, it's actually pretty detailed, as the one of the main characters is watching the climax of this episode on TV, and it's actually described in the book. And they actually filmed that scene for the movie, but it ended up getting cut, though it's still available as a bonus feature in the deleted scenes on the DVD and Blu-ray. Though realistically, you only actually see the closing credits of The Simpsons. You really don't see any of the actual show itself in the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, fun stuff. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, man, we appreciate all of you so much. All of the support, all of the love, all of the awesomeness. Keep doing it. Come check us out on Camp/2. I'm there most every week, and Richie's there when he can be.
All right. Well, outside of that show, you can follow us on this show here. You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow myself at TheWiz_Kid23. And you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That is DIDDLY.
Yeah, make sure you come back again next week, because we are going to be covering the episode. I don't have it up right yet. Here it is. Half Decent Proposal.
Hey, Miles.
What's up,
Miles?
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.